You saw several of the teams getting to test, the hybrid system for the first time. We obviously saw Marcus Ericsson in the Andretti Autosport car for the first time. Colton Herta was out there as well. Alex Palou, Scott Dixon, Will Power. Several folks getting to drive. You also saw, and which I think was cool, but McLaren was running all their drivers through the car. I don't know if Pato was there because I think he was doing a seat fit for the Formula One car, but David Malukas got to get in the car as well, which again, testing is so important. This testing that these guys get to do, and particularly, this is very much like there's always a phrase, the rich get richer. Well, if you're successful in racing, you're only going to be more successful and you're only going to get more opportunities to drive. But when you look at how much testing Will Power has done, how much testing Scott Dixon has done, Alex Palou, they are so many miles ahead of the rest of the field already when it comes to experience and the new package, all this stuff. It's racing will never be fair. That's just what it is. But it's just, what you gotta be the best to get the best stuff. So, you got to respect that. And those guys are putting in a ton of work for the series as a whole. I will say more drivers got in at the Indy test than I expected to see. So that's good. They're trying to spread that out a little bit, which I actually really love for the rest of the series, for the sake of the series and for everyone. But yeah, there's some interesting, obviously, for those who don't necessarily know the hybrid power system, it's very much, when we look at Formula One cars and doing their laps, right? You got to charge up your energy. It used to be KERS, like, hey, we're going to deploy KERS power, all that stuff. It's like a boost of power. You got to charge it to then use it. And when you think of that at an oval like Indy, you're trying to be flat out the whole time. So, you're trying to put together like, well, where do I charge it? How do what? So again, I don't pretend to know the inner details of it yet, because obviously I'm unemployed. And I don't know anything about what's going on yet, but I obviously have offline conversations with the drivers that are, driving, and, it's going to change some things for sure for the way you get power out of your qualifying runs, at the Indy 500. It's going to change, the way you use the brakes, basically every road and street course. There's going to be a lot of different things that are going to be different and that drivers are going to have to adjust to, which I think is exciting. I think there are going to be many things that as the season goes, the manufacturers will figure out. The more and more mileage you do on these things, the more and more, experience you get and the more fine tuning you get. Because think of how many years we've had this engine. This engine has been around a long time. The Chevy and Honda package has been around a long time. But every year we are doing more and more with this engine to make it faster or to figure some things out, to make it more efficient, the drivability better. So, this is just stage one. But like Alex had a couple funny headlines, I would say. And it looks like the article has actually been changed since I sent it to him, because I showed him the article, and it was a WTHR Channel 13 local media here article.
WTHR, watch out.
WTHR, they put up a quote that said, "I just don't think it's that fast," or something like that. And I was like, oh, yeah. It's still the same on their Facebook. "It's certainly not fast," was the quote, which is very, I'm sure that's not like the greatest headline to have, but this isn't coming from me. This is coming from an Indy 500 champion. So it's, to read a more of the quote directly, that's one of the drivers had said, I believe it was Alex, "I think you'll see more of an impact in group running than when you're just driving around flat out by yourself." That's what Alex Rossi said, which of course is interesting, right? So think of, there was some generalities said, like, look, if you're not deploying the electrical power, right? If you're not deploying that hybrid power, you could do a certain lap time, right? But to charge that electric power, you have to give up something. And then, so what do you gain by then deploying that power? So there might actually be some really interesting, overtaking and not overtaking, but by, when cars are just charging and recharging and deploying the power. So again, there'll be a lot of new terms that people are going to have to get used to. I think there's, I think it could be good. I really hope it's good. But, if you think of an efficiency of, when you have to charge the system, how much speed does that take away from a full flat out lap? well, shoot, if that's, we're looking for half mile an hour to a mile an hour, maybe even a quarter of a mile an hour at the Indy 500. What if you lose a mile an hour per lap on a 4-lap run to then get 2.5 miles an hour or 3 miles an hour total at the 4th lap? When do you choose, or do you choose to deploy all that power right on the very first lap and then be losing power? Again, it's a very interesting way to think about it. But I'm glad they're doing the testing. I respect them for doing that. I really hope more and more teams get the opportunity to run it. Some of the smaller teams. And so, yeah, we'll certainly see what happens. But it was great to see cars at IMS. Weather was great. A lot of, Kyle Larson, story of the day, you know what I mean? Doing 2:17, I believe, was his fastest lap, almost 2:18. Got through rookie orientation. No one had any dramas in rookie orientation, which was good. Other than, I think, Linus Lindquist had like a tire failure or something like that. That was wild, or some sort of failure. But yeah, good to see cars at IMS, huh, Joey? I thought that was all right.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was bummed because I couldn't be there because the weather did look beautiful, and fall time to be able to go out there. We're so used to it being the early spring, late spring, obviously, when we're out there and it's getting warmer, but to have that kind of chill in the air would have been cool to be out there. But yeah, I mean, I think like you mentioned with Kyle Larson doing 2:17, I mean, at that point, he's really just there to just make sure no disasters happen, right?
Yeah.
Get in the car, spin laps, figure things out. It's not like this is anywhere close to what we're probably going to see, unless you listen to Alex Rossi and believe what he's saying. That's not going to be anywhere close to what we're going to see come April, May next year, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Kyle has no need to go out there and set the world on fire yet. He's obviously fighting for a championship still in the NASCAR Cup Series as well. But hey, the rookie orientation is purely just for, hey, we're going to get some laps under our belt. Obviously, we know what speed that is. If you followed the Indy 5, like, that's obviously, hey, we're not going fast yet, and that's fine. He doesn't need to go fast yet. Kyle knows what he's doing. He gets a feel for it. If you're doing laps at 2:17, high 2:17, I mean, you're probably not flat yet. Maybe flat with full absolute maximum downforce. But just getting a feel for it, right? You don't have qualifying power, so you're at the practice power, race power. You're at everything on, like, hey, we're just going to get out here, get a feel for it. So no need for any overreactions, overreaction Wednesday or whatever we're doing here. But great to see him out there. And honestly, I'm glad he got to do the laps and enjoy it because, hey, he's going to be a force to reckon with for sure. I believe next year. I truly believe he's going to be very good. He's going to be at the front. He's going to understand it. But this is my early prediction, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's just it was wild to it had been talked about and it had been speculated about for so long, about Kyle Larson coming over to run the Indy 500, and then to see him actually in the suit, in the car, doing it. It was just kind of surreal because for how long have we been like, oh, wow, yeah. Like, I remember a couple of years ago at BC 39 when he was running there and Roger Penske was out there saying, oh, yeah, maybe I'm looking for my next Indy 500 winner or something. And that was in like 2021. And people were like, oh, he's talking about Larson. He's talking about Larson.
Yeah.
And now here we are in 2023, watching him prepare to get ready to go on that journey for 2024. So overall, it just felt cool to be like, wow, it actually is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be something that there's a lot that he's still going to have to learn too, right? Because again, the car that he was driving did not have the hybrid technology unit in it, right? So there's going to be even more, for us as drivers, there's going to be a lot more that we've got to get used to as well. A lot more different controls, a lot more, deploying things and charging things. And so Kyle's going to go from having really no adjustments in the Cup car. Hey, if you're doing stuff on the Cup car on the oval, there's not a lot you can do, right? We're shifting and we're steering, and you're checking on things. As someone who's raced a Cup car on an oval, like, unless there was something that those other teams had that I didn't have, which again, I wouldn't be surprised about, but there's not much you can do. And there's going to be a lot that he's going to have to pay attention to. But again, professionals do that. Like, Kyle is a top level talent no matter who you are. So he's gonna get used to it. McLaren's gonna give him everything he needs to be prepared, which is awesome. So a lot went on there. And again, wild minute by minute updates on the Twitter sphere. I don't know where I was, but basically every single time Kyle Larson did a lap, there was an update about it. So it was very easy to follow. So appreciate all those folks doing that as well. So it was interesting for sure.